Good afternoon. How are you? Well, Thomas Jefferson tells me that it's 88 degrees out, and it feels really special today. And it's warm, but it's comfortable. And the humidity is 64, and that may make some difference because it's been up 10 and 20 and 30 points above that. And then the wind is 1.8 mile an hour. And I guess because of the trees, I don't feel any of that. Let's see, it's a mixed bag of news today. It should not surprise us that a Supreme Court that usurps its role as a lawgiver for ideological and political objectives is going to do bad law. And they did that today. And there are a couple of things to note about it, but the bottom line is that the six on the court who kowtow to the maggots and don't seem to care so much about precedent or law would lift a bar to slashing more than a third of the workforce at the Department of Education. It's 4,100 persons. The decision of the six was given without explanation. And more the court is doing that. So we the people are not informed as to the rationale for the actions taken. And it feels as if it's a service to perpetuate the increase in power of the president to dictatorial stages. Now, Justice Sotomayor, to her credit, joined by Justices Kagan and Jackson, said that the summary order, which just gave the result I spoke, was indefensible. And at another place in her opinion, her dissenting opinion, she wrote, "It is the judiciary's duty to check the lawless, not to expedite what's lawless." Our words find action in dissent. And the question is, how do we get our republic back again so that the choices follow the Constitution, follow law, follow good and common sense, and light a beacon to the nation that we have a purpose that is more than the strike and grab and hurt agenda of those who presume, without actual knowledge or skill, to decide what's best for us almost on impulse. And that, of course, sounds most like Trump, and that's what his followers mimic. But we'll get to that in a moment. The court is not the only organ that is seriously compromised. There's something about the judgment in this country when the owners of Camp Mystic by the Guadalupe River that suffered so many deaths among the young and others. Well, today we find out that they knew that the waters might be 4 feet engulfing the camp, and they did nothing for an entire hour. They didn't evacuate, though they had the emergency information. And during that period, the water swelled to 4 feet, and the tragedy was accomplished. There are a couple other things happening. The light is beautiful here. Let me see if I can show you. Look at the path. Just gorgeous out. Trump is speaking, it seems to me, on a different wavelength now about Ukraine. And he's speaking strongly for Kiev But is this one of those digressions that is insincere, hoping to avoid the Epstein scandal, which seems to have been taking on a life of its own? I find it hard to believe the reaction to the Epstein information about the lists maintained and the death that's believed to have been a murder, not a suicide. I can believe both that there is a list. It just makes so much sense. How do you keep track of information? And when I was in AUSA in the Southern District of New York, I investigated corruption in the federal prison facility. Went in and out of the prison a fair amount. We didn't have any investigations of suicides, but they are suspicious, and we see them more frequently in state facilities. So what do we have here? We have Speaker Johnson, who is as right-wing, conservative, and Christian as they come, spoke to a right-wing podcaster, and he said, and this is in contradiction of what Trump wants, he supported the release of the Epstein files. There were some Republicans that wanted to join a Democratic motion to require the release of that information to the Hill. But in a kind of contradiction, it seems to me, the leadership didn't want Republicans signing on to a Democratic bill. Johnson's speech, on the other hand, to the podcaster was let the people decide. So, is this the real thing? Is it possible that the weight of the inanity, corruption, and maybe this is the key, deviation from what is supported by the maggots is shifting away from Trump? They were not happy, if it's America first, that we're dropping bombs in Iran. They're not happy what we're doing in Ukraine. And so is it this atmosphere and the big bad bill that has so many other contradictions to what has become the Republican policy mantra, that the Epstein question is a bridge too far, that it's combined with everything else a basis of revolt? Could it be this is to discipline Trump? Could it be that people have ambitions of a presidential kind? Again, looking for the simplest expression that would be the most understandable. It could be the fear that kept, say, the members of Congress on Trump's side, the fear of losing their jobs, having somebody run a primary against them. If that's the driving force, there may have been an enlightenment that Trump is becoming radioactive for the midterms, and that the House might actually go Democratic. I mean, we have Democrats running around saying there's no question that's what's going to happen. But in politics, the shortest distance between 2 points is almost never a straight line. But it's a logical belief. How do I distinguish myself as a member of Congress in a district that needs Medicaid? If you go to West Virginia, it's Medicaid Medicare, it's Social Security payments, and I think more red states have these needs than other states. So that's a concern. And closing these federal jobs out makes a difference in a lot of districts, going beyond just the job, the service. I thought of Napoleon. Napoleon, he said so many things, but one that makes sense, particularly after we're looking at it today, when Napoleon was vanquished, we say, well, he saw this would happen. He said, I feel myself driven towards an end that I do not know. He didn't understand what his own destiny was. And he said, as soon as I shall have reached it, as soon as I'm unnecessary, an atom will suffice to shatter me. Now, holding on to power in the kind of atmosphere that Napoleon existed is, well, I don't know if you can say killing so many and occupying so many places is a special gift, but he was perceived that way. There's something in the body politic that thinks of great warriors and conquerors in a very favorable way until they're not. And Napoleon, I guess, split his attention to the east against Russia and to the west at the same time. And the rule of thumb, I had my thumb in front of the camera for a moment, by accident. The rule of thumb is that you don't want to have two competing fronts of war to be fighting. Individually, they tell us we should only have so many things that put a high demand on our nervous system because we can break down. Well, Trump, it is possible that this 6-month period was his honeymoon. And he's now made so many decisions that at first contradicted others, but gradually contradicted his base. And I'm not saying a single atom could bring him down, but we may be observing a transition in which the ground is shifting under Trump. Again, it's going to be something we have to watch. Those of us who obsess about politics find it's a game with great suspense, but it's real. So there's cause to care about it. But there are a lot of grifters in the business. A lot of terrible things go on, and amazingly wonderful things. And so it's like life. And it's no mistake that Aristotle talked about politics as the highest profession. It may not seem that way to us when we see the grimy way many do it, but there are extraordinary people, and we just have too few of them right now. So we have a crisis of the spirit. I do think in recent days I've seen more movement for alternative political action from members of Congress. It's not enough. It's not enough. We need more. And Jeffries, whom I have a lot of respect for, when he's speaking, he's falling flat. And this is not a time to talk stump speeches. Our voice should be conversational. Our name calling should be complemented with examples of what we're suffering because of the dystopic agenda that's embraced by so many in our nation. And when we're talking about destroying a supporting foundation for education. In the Department of Education, we're talking about taking it down and spreading the experts in the department to the four winds. We're giving up. No, we're canceling what has been a gift in America of improvising and inventing and crossing new frontiers, not land, but areas of mental and physical change that can make a nation and its people great. I'm not talking about war. I'm not talking about conquering. We have so many possibilities, all of which are being ignored and compromised by Trump. And I suppose Epstein is the canary in the mine that's gasping for Republican survival because Trump has now crossed his base perhaps too many times to be trusted again. You have to ask yourself why anybody who's observed this man, even from 2015 to now, would think you can trust him. You see him betray his friends, the people most loyal to him, all the time. He sheds people after he's used them. He's a user. And those of us who were in New York when he was a younger man, we saw him. He was this way, pretending to be someone he wasn't, calling up with a phony name on his own half to get in the newspapers. He was driven to catch attention. And there's an old Democratic saw about candidates running for office, you know. Is he a workhorse or a show horse? And Trump is mostly a show horse. I mean, you see, even in the fortune he claims, is branding properties that he didn't build. That is where some large portion of his fortune comes from. And when people were upset with him, they wanted his name off their building, their lodging, their house. So, what we have before us now is an interregnum. On the one hand, we had Trump exalted with no diminution in moving forward in a march toward monarchy. And then there's this in-between period, and the question is, on the other side, will Trump be more like a president who's constrained by those who support him, by the voters who will have a say in who's in the Congress next year? And maybe the thing that kept Trump in power, being able to threaten so many with primaries, has been compromised by Elon Musk, who's created his own party and an ability to shit-can perhaps any member of Congress, certainly, if he puts his mind to it. Now, do remember that he wasn't very smart about that judge candidate, and that was embarrassing, and that's good. But now the question is, what are the fears of those people who turned to Trump in the past? Well, they think they can't be seen with him in the future. So that's some of my thoughts today. I had a good day writing paper. Enjoyed writing for a client and friend, and I'm hoping it'll have some good effect by the end of the week. So I say goodbye to you from my Cathedral of Trees on this absolutely marvelous day. All the best. Bye.